In a city full of towering buildings and busy streets lived a millionaire who had everything money could buy. From the outside, his life looked perfect, with a grand house, expensive cars, and luxury at every turn. But despite all this wealth, his life at home was quiet and a little lonely. He had a daughter who was young, bright, and full of curiosity, yet she faced challenges because of her disability, which made her depend more on others for support and care. The millionaire loved his daughter deeply, but his busy schedule and constant work trips often kept him away, leaving him unaware of the little moments in her life. His house was a large, beautifully decorated mansion with marble floors that gleamed and rooms filled with expensive furniture. The garden was perfectly trimmed, and the swimming pool sparkled under the sun. Yet, in the midst of all this beauty, there was a certain emptiness, because the house often echoed with silence when no one was around. It was a life of luxury, but it lacked the warmth that comes from spending time with loved ones. The daughter, with her bright eyes and gentle smile, often waited for her father to return, wondering when she could share her small joys and achievements with him. The millionaire's daughter loved music and dancing, but because of her disability, she could not move as freely as other children. She needed support and encouragement to enjoy even simple activities. Despite this, her spirit was strong, and she had a smile that could light up the darkest rooms. At home, the maid and her young son had become her closest friends. They were always around to help, laugh with her, and make her feel included, creating moments of happiness that money alone could never buy. The millionaire, in contrast, spent most of his time in meetings, phone calls, and travels, focusing on business and wealth accumulation. He rarely noticed the small but important moments at home, like the way his daughter's eyes lit up when someone danced with her or how she laughed at small jokes. He thought that giving her the best of everything, clothes, toys, gadgets, was enough to show love. But he was beginning to realize that the real treasure was in the time spent together. People around the millionaire often admired him for his success, but few knew about the emptiness he sometimes felt. Even with all his riches, he sometimes returned home late at night to find the house quiet, and he would feel a pang of sadness, thinking that perhaps he was missing something more important than wealth. This contrast between his public image and private life painted a picture of a man who had everything in the world but still longed for real connection. At the same time, the daughter's world was simpler yet richer in emotion. Her days were filled with small joys like coloring books, music, and games, but she often wished for her father's attention. Even though she was loved by her mother and the maid, the presence of her father in her daily life was something she craved deeply. She would watch the door, hoping he would walk in and smile at her, but he was often caught up in the demands of his career, unaware of her longing. The maid's son played an important role in bridging this gap. Because he spent so much time with the daughter, he learned how to help her enjoy her life. He would play games, encourage her to dance, and make her laugh, bringing happiness to a life that otherwise could have felt restricted by her disability. The millionaire, though proud of his wealth and achievements, had yet to witness these small but priceless moments, moments that no amount of money could ever buy. In this world of wealth and silent longing, a story was quietly forming, one that would soon show the millionaire the true meaning of love, presence, and happiness. He lived in a world of high expectations and accomplishments, yet he was about to learn that the real wealth lay in the laughter, smiles, and shared moments with his daughter. It was a life waiting to change, a world where luxury met love, and where the simplest joys held the greatest treasures. And so, in the quiet rooms of the mansion, with expensive paintings on the walls and crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, the millionaire's world continued, a world of power, prestige, and silent longing. Little did he know that soon, his return home would open his eyes to the happiness he had been missing, the joy of seeing his daughter smile freely, and the warmth that no wealth could ever replace. The story of his world was just beginning, filled with lessons that were far more valuable than money. At home, life moved at a different pace than the busy world outside. The mansion, though grand and filled with luxury, had its own rhythm shaped by the laughter and footsteps of those who lived there daily. The millionaire's daughter, with her bright eyes and gentle smile, had a routine that was small yet filled with warmth. She would wake up early, her little hands brushing over her toys, her favorite stuffed animals lined up neatly beside her bed. Each morning, she would look out of the large windows of the mansion, watching the sunlight spill across the garden, imagining the stories of birds and flowers outside. The maid, who had been with the family for many years, understood the daughter's needs better than anyone. She was kind, patient, and full of love, treating the girl not as someone to care for out of duty, but as a friend and companion. The maid's young son, who was only a few years older than the millionaire's daughter, became her constant companion. A bond had grown between them over shared games, laughter, and moments of pure joy. He was playful, mischievous at times, but always gentle, knowing how to make her laugh even on difficult days. Every day, the maid's son would find creative ways to bring happiness into her life. Sometimes it was a simple dance in the living room, with music filling the space as they twirled and laughed together. Other times, it was a small game they invented, running around the mansion, hiding in corners, and pretending the furniture was part of a magical kingdom. The daughter's laughter echoed through the large rooms, filling the house with warmth that even the finest furniture or sparkling chandeliers could never create. Even in her disability, she found freedom in these moments. Her movements might have been slower or more careful, but her spirit soared with every laugh. Every smile she gave to the maid's son was met with a grin that reflected pure innocence, pure joy, and a deep understanding that true happiness was not measured by wealth, but by love and companionship. The maid watched these moments with a quiet smile, knowing that in her son, the daughter had found a friend who brought her confidence, courage, and comfort. Life at home was also filled with small lessons and daily challenges. The daughter had routines that required patience, and the maid ensured each day was filled with kindness rather than frustration. She taught her how to enjoy even small achievements, celebrating each victory with pride. While the millionaire was away, the home became a safe space where the daughter could grow, play, and express herself freely. She learned to trust, to smile, and to embrace her own strength, and all of this was made possible by the presence of the maid and her son. The maid's son, though young, had a remarkable understanding of her feelings. He could sense when she was frustrated or tired, and he would gently encourage her. Sometimes he would hold her hand and help her move to a comfortable spot. Other times, he would simply sit beside her, sharing a story or a funny joke that made her giggle uncontrollably. These small gestures, unnoticed by the world outside, were what made the mansion feel like a home, full of life, laughter, and love. The millionaire's daughter looked up to him not only as a friend but as a source of inspiration. The maid's son never treated her disability as a limitation. He always focused on what she could do, celebrating her abilities, no matter how small. This perspective gave her confidence, courage, and hope. It was a world away from the pressures and expectations of wealth, yet it was richer than anything money could provide. Through these daily moments, the mansion transformed from a quiet, lifeless space into a haven of laughter and warmth. The walls seemed to breathe with life, and even the sunlight streaming through the large windows seemed brighter. The maid's son and the daughter created a rhythm that was uniquely theirs, full of imagination, joy, and unconditional care. And though the millionaire had not yet returned to witness these moments, they were quietly shaping the daughter's world, teaching her the value of friendship, love, and small everyday happiness. As the day passed, the laughter would fade into soft whispers and quiet play. The daughter would rest, surrounded by the comfort of her toys and the gentle presence of her friend. Her heart was full, her spirit strong, and the mansion, despite its grandeur, felt like a home because of these simple, unforgettable moments. In this daily life, the millionaire's daughter learned to embrace joy, resilience, and the beauty of human connection. Lessons that would one day surprise her father and change his world forever. The day had been ordinary, quiet in the mansion, with sunlight streaming through the tall windows and shadows slowly moving across the polished floors. The daughter was playing with the maid's son, their laughter bouncing off the walls, and the maid was busy in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared a simple meal. Nobody expected that today would be different, that the rhythm of their day would be interrupted by a surprising and life-changing event. The millionaire had been traveling for business, meetings one after another, his mind occupied with numbers, deals, and deadlines. Yet, something inside him told him to return home earlier than planned. Perhaps it was a longing he could not ignore, a feeling that he had been missing the small moments in his daughter's life. Whatever the reason, he decided to cancel his remaining meetings and head back to the mansion, eager, though unaware, of what awaited him. As he drove through the streets, the city seemed different, quieter, almost as if it too was holding its breath. He thought about the luxury he had worked for, the power and status he had gained, and yet a part of him felt an unusual nervousness, an anticipation that he could not explain. He wondered what he would find at home, whether his daughter would even notice his early return, and whether he could finally connect with her in the way he had imagined. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, the daughter was completely unaware of the approaching change. She twirled around the living room, holding the maid's hand and laughing. Her eyes sparkled with joy, her disability forgotten in those moments of pure play. The maid's son was equally engrossed, carefully guiding her steps, making sure she did not stumble. Their bond was visible, a perfect picture of innocence, trust, and love. The house seemed alive with energy, completely different from the silence. It often knew when the millionaire was away. The front door opened quietly, but the sound caught the attention of the maid. She looked up from her work and froze for a moment, recognizing the familiar figure. The millionaire had returned earlier than anyone expected. His eyes scanned the room, tired from travel but carrying a soft curiosity. He paused in the doorway, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. There, in the middle of the living room, was his daughter, dancing freely with the maid's son. Her laughter filled the air, and her smile shone brighter than any luxury he had ever possessed. The sight was both shocking and beautiful, an unexpected moment that caught him completely off guard. He had imagined his daughter waiting shyly for him, sitting quietly in her chair, but this scene was far from what he had expected. It was alive, joyful, and full of a warmth he had almost forgotten existed in his home. For a few moments, he simply watched, frozen by surprise. His mind raced with thoughts and emotions, confusion mixed with happiness, pride mixed with a sense of guilt. He realized he had been missing these moments for a long time, and yet, at that very instant, he understood the depth of what he had been absent from. The daughter's happiness was not created by wealth, toys, or grand gestures, but by love, attention, and companionship. The maid's son noticed the new presence and froze, unsure how the millionaire would react. The daughter, sensing something unusual, looked up with her wide, innocent eyes, and smiled, thinking it was just another part of their playful game. She did not yet understand the shock her father was feeling. The millionaire, standing in the doorway, felt a lump in his throat, emotions he had long ignored rising to the surface. This unexpected return was more than just a surprise, it was a turning point. The millionaire realized that wealth and status could never replace the joy of seeing his daughter smile freely. The world outside could wait, meetings could be postponed, but these small, priceless moments inside his home could not. He knew that his life, though filled with luxury, had been incomplete without this connection. And so, the day that began like any other suddenly became unforgettable. A simple, ordinary afternoon transformed into a moment that would change the millionaire, his daughter, and the maid's son forever. Little did he know, this unexpected return was only the beginning of a journey that would teach him the true meaning of love, presence, and family. The millionaire stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes widening as he tried to process what he was seeing. The scene before him was unlike anything he had imagined. His daughter, his precious little girl, was not sitting quietly, not waiting nervously for him to arrive, but dancing freely with the maid's son. Her laughter filled the room, a sound so pure and joyful that it seemed to echo off the walls, bouncing around the mansion like a melody that had been missing for years. The maid's son was gentle and careful, guiding her movements with patience, making sure she did not stumble or feel left out. His own eyes sparkled with happiness as he watched her twirl and spin, completely absorbed in the moment. It was a sight that took the millionaire's breath away, a mix of innocence, courage, and pure joy all wrapped into one. He had expected to see his daughter quietly sitting, perhaps reading or playing alone, but this unexpected display of happiness caught him completely off guard. For a few moments, time seemed to freeze. The millionaire could not speak, could not move. He felt an overwhelming mix of emotions, shock, awe, pride, and a strange sense of regret. He realized that while he had been busy chasing success, accumulating wealth, and building his empire, he had missed the simple, irreplaceable joys of his daughter's daily life. The sight of her laughing freely, dancing without fear, opened a door to feelings he had long ignored. The daughter, lost in her game, was unaware of the storm of emotions in her father's eyes. She giggled as the maid's son spun her gently, her wheelchair moving gracefully with every twirl. Her laughter was infectious, and for the first time in a long while, the millionaire felt a warmth that no amount of money could ever buy. He watched the bond between them, a bond that went beyond words, a bond built on trust, friendship, and genuine love, and he understood something profound. This moment was more than just a game, it was a lesson. It showed him the power of connection, the importance of presence, and the joy that comes from giving someone your attention, not your gifts. The millionaire's heart ached as he realized how much he had missed, all the little dances, the quiet smiles, the laughter that had echoed in the rooms when he was away. This single moment, so full of life, was more valuable than any deal, any success, or any luxury he had ever achieved. The maid's son noticed the millionaire in the doorway and paused for a brief second, unsure how he would react, but his eyes were kind, his smile gentle, and he continued to hold his friend's hand, subtly encouraging her to keep dancing. He understood that this was not just play, it was love, compassion, and care in its purest form. The millionaire's daughter looked up briefly and smiled, her innocent eyes shining, as if she knew her father had finally returned, but she did not yet realize the depth of his shock and emotion. In that quiet moment, the millionaire felt a wave of humility. He had always thought of himself as successful, powerful, in control, but here he was, learning from a child and a young boy what true happiness really meant. He felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that life was passing by while he focused on the wrong things. He wanted to step forward, to join in, to be part of this pure, innocent joy, yet he hesitated, afraid to disturb the magic of the moment. The mansion, with its grand walls, sparkling chandeliers, and luxurious furniture, seemed to fade into the background. The only thing that mattered now was the laughter, the friendship, and the bond between the daughter and the maid's son. The millionaire realized that wealth and power could never replace these moments, and that he had been blind to the true treasures of life. Finally, he took a cautious step forward, his heart pounding, his eyes never leaving his daughter. This single step marked the beginning of a change, a realization that he needed to be present, to embrace these moments, and to let love, kindness, and connection take priority over material success. The shocking moment had done more than surprise him. It had awakened something deep inside, a desire to truly be there for his daughter, to cherish her, and to never let such precious moments pass him by again. The millionaire stood there, his heart pounding, his mind racing. The laughter of his daughter filled the room, a sound so full of life that it seemed to shake the walls of his carefully ordered world. Yet, amid the joy, he felt a strange, unfamiliar tangle of emotions, a storm he had never anticipated. Shock still lingered from the sight of his daughter dancing with the maid's son, but now it was joined by curiosity, pride, confusion, and even a hint of jealousy. He had always thought he knew what was best for his daughter, planning her days, arranging her activities, and ensuring she had everything money could buy. Yet, seeing her laugh so freely, guided not by him but by someone else, made him realize how little he truly knew about her inner world. For the first time, he questioned whether his wealth and attention had really mattered, or if the happiness he had been striving to provide was missing something far more important: presence, connection, and genuine love. The maid's son, standing beside the daughter, looked up briefly at the millionaire, sensing both surprise and tension. He did not shrink back, though he could feel the weight of his father's presence. Instead, he continued to hold her hands, spinning her gently, encouraging her confidence and her joy. This act of kindness, simple yet profound, struck the millionaire in a way he did not expect, forcing him to reflect on his own actions, his absences, and the ways he had failed to truly understand his daughter's needs. A swirl of pride and guilt washed over him at once. He was proud that his daughter could find happiness, proud that she had a friend who loved her so completely, and proud that she was learning to enjoy life despite her challenges. Yet, guilt gnawed at him, a quiet, uncomfortable awareness that he had been missing these moments, that while he was building an empire, his daughter was building memories without him. Memories filled with laughter that he could have been part of, memories he might never recover if he did not change. His thoughts collided in rapid succession. What if he had returned earlier many times in the past? What if he had been there to hold her hand, to encourage her, to laugh alongside her? Could he have made a difference in moments that now felt lost forever? The questions made his chest tighten, but they also sparked a desire to act, to be present, to seize this unexpected moment and never let it slip away again. At the same time, he felt a strange envy toward the maid's son, a boy so young, yet so brave, patient, and caring, someone who could give his daughter the joy and attention he had neglected. It was an unfamiliar feeling, a mix of admiration and inadequacy, making him question not only his actions but also his priorities. He realized that the boy had become more than just a friend. He had become a teacher, showing the millionaire lessons he could not have learned in any boardroom. The daughter's laughter, her twirling movements, and the innocent way she looked at her friend softened his heart, yet it also brought the reality of his absence into sharp focus. He wanted to step forward, to take part in their joy, but he feared breaking the delicate rhythm that had formed between them. He wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but the right words seemed impossible, trapped behind a wall of emotions too strong to release all at once. In that moment of internal conflict, he realized something important. Love was not always about giving material gifts or enforcing rules. Love was about showing up, about being present, about sharing the small, priceless moments that could never be bought. The laughter of his daughter was not a distraction from his world of wealth and success, but a revelation of what his life had been missing. And he understood that to be a father meant more than providing. It meant being, truly being, for his child. The storm of emotions began to settle, leaving behind a quiet determination. He would not let this moment pass unnoticed. He would not return to the silence of business meetings and travel. He would step into the warmth of his daughter's world, embrace the joy around him, and learn from the lessons unfolding in the living room. The conflict within him, though still present, had become a catalyst for change. A reminder that life's most meaningful treasures were not wealth, power, or status, but love, attention, and connection. And so, as the daughter danced, laughing freely with the maid's son, the millionaire made a silent promise to himself. He would no longer allow distance, work, or pride to separate him from her happiness. The conflicting emotions, once overwhelming, were now transformed into a determination to be a father worthy of the love and trust he witnessed in that moment. A moment that was shocking, humbling, and unforgettable all at once. The millionaire finally stepped fully into the room, his eyes fixed on his daughter and the maid's son. He moved slowly, careful not to disturb the magic of the moment, but as he watched, something shifted inside him. A quiet understanding began to bloom. He realized that the laughter he had been witnessing was not just play, but a bridge connecting two hearts, a connection that went deeper than words or explanations. For years, he had assumed that love meant providing, that wealth and gifts were enough to make a child happy, yet, in this moment, he understood that true love was presence, attention, and care. He saw how the maid's son guided his daughter with patience, how he celebrated every small step she took, how he laughed with her when she stumbled and cheered when she succeeded. It was a bond built on empathy, understanding, and kindness, something no amount of money could ever replace. The daughter looked up at the millionaire with a bright smile, her eyes sparkling, yet she didn't stop dancing. She trusted the maid's son completely, and through him, she was discovering confidence, joy, and freedom. The millionaire felt a rush of emotions, pride that his daughter could find happiness, gratitude for the boy who had been her friend and guide, and a twinge of regret for all the moments he had missed. But most of all, he felt awe at the depth of human connection, something far more powerful than wealth or status. The maid's son noticed the millionaire standing nearby but continued to hold his friend's hand, guiding her carefully. His movements were confident yet gentle, a perfect balance of strength and care. Watching this, the millionaire realized that the boy had been teaching his daughter lessons he himself had overlooked, lessons about trust, courage, laughter, and joy. The boy had become a teacher, showing that even the smallest gestures of kindness could transform a life. Slowly, the millionaire stepped closer, careful to show respect for the bond before him. He wanted to join, to participate, but he also didn't want to take away the joy his daughter had discovered. Instead, he observed, and in doing so, he began to understand something profound. Happiness was not about control, it was about connection. It was about letting others share in your life and learning from them. He had spent so long measuring success in numbers, wealth, and power, yet he had never realized the simple, pure power of love and friendship. The daughter twirled in the maid's son's arms, giggling, her wheelchair moving with ease because of the careful guidance he provided. The millionaire's heart swelled as he watched, and for the first time in years, he felt completely present, completely alive. He understood that the boy's presence was not a replacement for him, but a complement, someone who had been filling a gap that he had unknowingly left. It was not a moment of competition, but a moment of learning, a moment of awakening. The realization hit him fully. His daughter had grown in ways he had never imagined. She had confidence, courage, and happiness because of the care and friendship the boy had given her. She was learning the value of companionship, empathy, and trust, qualities that no luxury or gift could ever teach. The millionaire felt humbled, understanding that life's most meaningful lessons often came from the most unexpected sources, and that he, too, had much to learn. As the room filled with laughter and light, he reached out his hand, not to control, not to dominate, but to join, to connect, and to share in the joy he had been missing. His daughter noticed him and smiled even brighter, sensing his presence, sensing the change in him. The maid's son glanced up and nodded subtly, as if acknowledging that the millionaire had finally understood, that he was ready to step into the connection, to embrace the bond, and to learn alongside them. In that moment, the millionaire realized that family was not just about blood or wealth, but about love, attention, and understanding, that happiness could be nurtured through small acts of care, and that connection was far more powerful than control. He promised himself silently that he would never again underestimate the power of presence, that he would cherish each moment, and that he would learn from the bonds that had been quietly shaping his daughter's world. The room seemed warmer now, brighter, filled not with luxury but with love. The millionaire had not only returned home early, but he had also returned to understanding, compassion, and a connection that would forever change the rhythm of their lives. The bond between his daughter and the maid's son had opened his eyes, and he knew that from this day forward, he would be more than just a provider. He would be a part of her world, fully, lovingly, and completely. The millionaire took a deep breath and stepped fully into the living room, letting the warmth of the moment wash over him. He no longer felt the shock, confusion, or hesitation that had gripped him before. Instead, he felt a quiet acceptance, a calm understanding that this was not just a fleeting moment of joy, but a turning point in his life. He had been so focused on rules, schedules, and wealth that he had forgotten the simplest, most important truths about family and love. Watching his daughter dance with the maid's son, he felt a wave of humility and gratitude. He realized that her happiness had been nurtured by kindness, care, and attention, not by luxury or grandeur. The boy had given her patience when she stumbled, encouragement when she hesitated, and laughter when she needed it most. It was a pure, unselfish love that the millionaire had been missing in his own approach, and he understood that he needed to change if he wanted to truly be her father. Slowly, he approached them, his hands extended in invitation, not control. His daughter looked up and smiled, recognizing her father in a new light, and the maid's son stepped aside respectfully, understanding that this was a moment of connection. The millionaire knelt down beside them, his eyes warm, and began to participate in their playful dance, not as a distant observer, but as a part of the joy, feeling the laughter and love that had been missing in his life. Every twirl, every laugh, every gentle push in the wheelchair felt like a revelation to him. He realized that love required presence, patience, and participation, and that true bonds were built on moments like these, not on wealth, rules, or control. The mansion, once a symbol of his achievements, now seemed alive with life and warmth. The walls echoed with laughter instead of silence, and even the sunlight streaming through the windows seemed brighter, reflecting the light that had been missing in his heart. The millionaire's daughter giggled as her father joined in. Her joy multiplied because he was not just watching but sharing the moment, and she felt seen, valued, and loved. The maid's son smiled too, happy to include the millionaire in their dance, sensing that a bond was forming, one that respected the past but embraced the present. The millionaire realized that acceptance meant more than agreeing with what had happened. It meant embracing it fully, allowing the joy of others to enter his life without fear or judgment. He thought about all the times he had missed, all the moments of laughter, encouragement, and play that he could never get back. Yet, he also knew that it was never too late to change, that every step he took now could strengthen his bond with his daughter and support the happiness she had found. He promised himself silently that he would no longer let work, pride, or control separate him from the people he loved, that he would be present, patient, and compassionate. The atmosphere in the room shifted completely. The millionaire's presence no longer felt like intrusion, but like a warm addition to the harmony that had been quietly growing between his daughter and the maid's son. He laughed freely, his heart lighter than it had been in years, and the daughter's giggles blended perfectly with his, forming a melody of pure family joy. It was a moment of transformation, of acceptance, and of change that none of them would forget. From that day onward, the millionaire's approach to life began to change. He no longer measured success by money or status alone, but by love, laughter, and connection. He spent more time with his daughter, encouraging her, celebrating her small victories, and participating in her joys. The mansion, once a place of silence and rules, became a home of warmth, play, and shared moments, filled with lessons that could never be learned in an office or through wealth. And as the daughter twirled in her wheelchair, holding both the maid's son's hand and her father's, the millionaire felt an overwhelming sense of peace, acceptance, and purpose. He had learned the power of love, patience, and presence, and he knew that the bonds forged in this moment would guide them all for the rest of their lives. The house was no longer just a mansion, it was a home, alive with connection, laughter, and the promise of a brighter, more loving future. The mansion, once quiet and orderly, now felt alive with warmth, laughter, and the gentle hum of a life being fully lived. The millionaire had returned early that day, expecting perhaps to supervise, to observe, to check in, but what he found instead was a revelation, a world of love and connection that had been quietly thriving in his absence. His daughter, radiant and joyful, danced freely with the maid's son, and he realized that life's richest treasures were not possessions, titles, or wealth, but moments like these, moments of pure, shared happiness. As he stepped into the room fully, he felt a sense of peace he had not known in years. The laughter of the two children was infectious, lifting the weight of his long days, of boardrooms and deadlines, and filling him with a sense of purpose far greater than any achievement he had ever earned. He knelt beside his daughter, taking her small hand gently in his, feeling the warmth and trust radiating from her, and in that simple touch, he understood that being present, truly present, was more valuable than anything else in the world. The maid's son, sensing the change, smiled warmly, his eyes reflecting approval and understanding. He had not just been a friend to the daughter, but a guide, a teacher of patience, care, and joy, and now the millionaire saw it too. He no longer felt jealousy, surprise, or confusion, only gratitude for the bond that had been nurtured, for the happiness that had been quietly growing, and for the lesson he had learned about what it truly meant to love. From that moment on, the millionaire began to see life differently. He realized that rules, schedules, and material wealth could never replace laughter, companionship, and shared moments, that the greatest success was not measured in currency or prestige, but in connection, in love, in the ability to make someone's heart feel lighter and fuller. He made a quiet promise to himself to be present in his daughter's life, to celebrate her victories, comfort her frustrations, and embrace her joys as if they were his own. Days passed, and the mansion transformed, not because of renovations or new furniture, but because of the presence, warmth, and attention that now filled every room. The daughter's laughter became a daily melody, the maid's son continued to be her guide and friend, and the millionaire became an active part of this circle of love. No longer an observer or a distant provider, he joined in the games, encouraged the small victories, and shared in the moments that truly mattered. The daughter flourished in this environment, her confidence and happiness growing every day. She twirled and danced, laughed and clapped, exploring her world with courage, knowing that both her father and her friend were there to support her. To the millionaire, each smile she gave became more precious than any deal or triumph he had ever experienced, and he began to understand that life's meaning was measured not by power, but by the bonds we nurture and the hearts we touch. One afternoon, as the three of them sat together in the sunlit living room, the millionaire realized how much had changed, not just in the house, but within himself. The earlier shock and confusion had been replaced by acceptance, understanding, and a desire to grow alongside his daughter. He had learned that love was not something to be controlled, but something to be shared, celebrated, and nurtured. That happiness was found not in isolation or wealth, but in connection, kindness, and genuine care. And so, a new beginning was born in that mansion, a beginning where the millionaire, his daughter, and the maid's son shared laughter, love, and life together, where wealth was no longer the measure of happiness, but presence and care were, where the mansion was transformed from a silent, distant home into a warm, vibrant place filled with shared memories and unspoken bonds. This day, this moment, marked the start of a journey that would forever change their lives, teaching them that the greatest treasures are often the simplest moments. As the sun set, Casting golden light across the polished floors, the millionaire held his daughter close, feeling her trust and love in a way he had never felt before. He knew that he would never again take these moments for granted, that every laugh, every twirl, every gentle touch would be cherished, and in that quiet, glowing room, a family had truly begun, connected not by wealth or circumstance, but by love, understanding, and the promise of a brighter, more joyful future.